Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Legends podcast series. And today I am absolutely thrilled to be sharing the story and so many of the different ways to lead lives of Terri Macmillan. Hi, Terri.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm bemused and reasonably good.
Bemused is a wonderful word for this year and just for life in general, I think.
It is.
So just to give a bit of background, it's October 2020. Whenever you're listening to this means it's month 8 of the coronavirus global pandemic that Terri and I have been living out in Tokyo together. And to give you a bit of background about how I know Terri, I met Terri maybe 12 years ago when we were both in an organization called FEW for Empowering Women in Japan, previously known as the Foreign Executive Women. Terri was there for the transition, and Terri and I were on the board of directors together. She was a long-term person on the board of directors, and also I would say that Terri is one of the people who is instrumental in having been there and present, along with her good friend Lauren, of my complete transition into having my own business. Now, I don't know whether you were aware of that at the time, Terri.
Absolutely. Yeah. Watched you with great glee, actually.
Thank you so much. And it was just brilliant, and having people like you and Lauren around me who were kind of like my elders, my mothers. I have deep respect for you both. I will always be grateful to you for just being there and being like present and holding me in the background when I was kind of like a baby entrepreneur, and you know, I was in my late 30s and I was finding my confidence. And so you just really are some of the people who were hugely inspirational, hugely influential, and really practically part of truly empowering me and other women to take risky steps and to live lives that are much richer for having had you in our lives. So I thank you greatly, Mother.
Oh my gosh, I did not expect that. Well, thank you very much. I mean, the reality is you're not in any way difficult to support. You don't make it hard to support you. So it's a joy. And to see you, I was just telling you when we got started in the patter beforehand, your website, your online presence is so authentic, and I'm so tired of that word, and we got to come up with another one.
Right.
But it's you. It speaks of you, and you have refined your presence as you've refined your business, and I think that's delightful. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. And the crucial thing is that I didn't know that at the time. So having like the elders like yourself and the other women around who could kind of just believe me, not necessarily believe in me because that's my business, but just believe me.
That's a fine distinction.
Yeah, it was, you know, I didn't know that at the time. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, our pleasure.
Deep bow. It was a pivotal time for me. And also at that time, Terri, I just wanted to say something else that I remember about that time was like, so, okay, I want to get into your work history just now. So I just want to get into your introduction because otherwise I'm going to go off. So right now you were working at Apple, but previous to working at Apple, you were an original podcast producer. Broad experience in creating, writing, and producing podcast series, videos, and animation.
That's true.
You had a podcast with Matthew, didn't you, Matthew Dons?
Yes, I did. I had it was a short series, but that was some years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of early podcast production, which was, unfortunately, at the time, there just wasn't a way to make money at it.
No.
And I was doing a lot of other things that are media-based in my small company with myself and a team of people who I'm still very close to now. And it was, when you don't have money backing you, or you're not smart enough to have saved up for years, or you don't have some hit out of the gate. Those three things help move you along.
Mm-hmm.
In our case, we didn't have any of those. We had some minor hits, but not huge hits.
Yeah. And you knew about podcasts back then as well?
Well, this was the thing.
Yeah.
We did a original series called Akiko and Tina. And Akiko and Tina did various things. They were office mates. And we did it for a studio now pretty much defunct. And we had our own little studio, and it was an amazing experience, but you needed the sales staff to go out and sell it.
Yeah.
We managed to get to 1 million downloads of 1 or 2 episodes, but it doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't mean anything.
Unless you have some money coming in.
I think it's much easier to be more savvy about that now than it was back then. Then it was Wild West, or I'm not sure I like that.
It wasn't even wild. It was a desert with a couple of those one of those rolling dry things that roll across the desert. That's right. Thank you. I'm forgetting my Americana. Tumbleweeds. That's what it was. Brilliant. That's what it was.
And you also have extensive experience in successfully marketing to niche audiences across cultures, including marketing Japanese alt pop artist Pizzicato 5 to a Western audience.
Yes, that's right.
The published author of Fushigi no Kuni no Bush, Bush in Wonderland, the first Bushisms, a book in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
You've experienced grassroots progressive political campaigns, including social media marketing for the Howard Dean campaign, and offline promotion for Dean's Perfect Storm, Des Moines, Iowa, 2003, Kerry, 04, Tampa, Florida, 2004, Obama for America Regional Field Director at North Asia, 2008. So quite politically active in the Democrats abroad, is that right? Yes,
I was a two-term chair, first with a co-chair with a very good friend of mine who's moved back to the States. He's awesome. So unbelievable, because I hadn't actually even bothered to get involved in politics at all until Howard Dean. I didn't even bother to vote, which my parents, if they were still alive, they would have been horrified, because they were, Democratic votes, reliable Democratic votes. But I thought politics had nothing for me, and I thought things would possibly just kind of go on in a reasonably normal way. I wasn't paying attention. And Bush made me sit up and take notice, and it just rolled on from there.
Yeah, well, yeah, really. I didn't even know what to say about that.
No, I know. We don't even have to get into politics. No, honey, believe me.
we can later, but I could feel some questions rising then. I'm like, no, actually, that's the rhetoric of every single time you open any bit of media.
I know. I don't mean to take us there.
Talk about that, do we?
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
We don't need to talk about it.
But anyway, there it is. Just there it is.
There it is. And there it will hopefully be gone pretty soon, but then that's a whole other set of issues.
I can't, because I've just got all hot shoulders then going, Anyway, so that's brilliant. But one of the things I just wanted to mention then about, again, that kind of 10 years ago, and it's come full circle now, we'll talk about that later, about the few connections, was when you first started working for the amazing tech company, you would run these workshops for women to help us with our tech. And we'd loads of us would come to the store, which was very kindly used. And at 7 a.m. we'd all pile into the store, and we'd get tech advice from you, because women require different kind of care and attention than men do around tech. Many women do.
Many women do.
And I was certainly one of those women. And thank you, because I have now got lots and lots of storage with my backups in it.
Oh, I am so glad you're backing up. Everybody who's listening to this, my gosh, please back up. I don't care what you're using, back up.
Amazing. And that leads me to my next question. I'm going to take that back up, and we're going to back up all the way back to the start of your life, Terri. So could you tell me about your background, your ancestry, your family, your
upbringing, good Lord,
life in America, and how did it shape you? Where are you from? What's your background?
Well, my dad was half native Cherokee, half Black American. He grew up in a kind of farm reservation situation. Got pulled out of school very early to work the fields. My dad was born in 1917. So
Wow.
that was that time. He was much, much older than my mom. My dad was a very, very smart man, but for African Americans, certainly for African natives, it's just not an easy road to hoe, right? And so he came up to New York in the Great Migration, and when many Black Americans were trying to get the heck out of the South, and came to New York City, came to Harlem, and met my mother, who was born in the South Bronx, and was a very elegant, delicate lady. And she had a very, she was African American. She had I don't even know how to describe her family, but very big family with lots of drama. And they met at a church in Harlem, and I don't even know if you call it going out at that time, but started going out, got married. I came along. I was born in 58, so I came along. We were living in Harlem for the first, I think, 4 or 5 years of my life, 5 or 6 years of my life. And there was one story I always remember, my mother telling me, having to take me down a fire escape as a little kid because some crazy person had let rice burn on their stove, and not the whole building, but enough of it was on fire. And deciding, I'm not staying here. I got to get a house, which of course was the dream at the time, So they moved me out to St. Albans, out to Queens, which is one of the places where hip hop got birthed. And I was around for some of that. And all sorts of things happened. We moved to a different house. My brother was born. I have a younger brother. Lots and lots and lots and lots of things happened, that some of which I remember, some of which I don't. End result was I was playing piano I took piano lessons for years. I was playing piano for my dad's church because he had a small kind of rough edged church near our house. And I decided, okay, music is going to be what I do, right? And I tried out for in New York, we have these kind of, I don't want to say elite because that sounds so terrible, but when you don't have the money to get into one of the private schools, there are these elite schools there's Bronx High School of Science, and there's another one called the High School of Music and Art. And that's where I went to high school. I went for voice and piano. I was a voice and piano major. And at that time it was in Harlem. So I was back home in Harlem. I did a lot of very, very shady stuff. Not illegal, well, probably illegal. When I was a teenager, I was very adventurous and entirely too sure that nothing would ever kill me. I just did a lot of crazy stuff. I drove my poor parents nuts. But anyway, finally I got out of high school. I went to Fordham University for 2 years. I did not graduate with a bachelor's. I got an associate's degree. I went for English because language is, like music, my life. But I don't know how, I somehow said, I'm going to jump out of school. I was working at this little dopey store. And I said, I want to go and experience life. Now, I had already done a lot of experiencing life when I should have been in high school paying attention, but I managed to slide out of there at the skin of my teeth. And then I got myself into a company called Gilbert Industries, which was a toy company. And very soon thereafter, toy company was bought by CBS Records International. CBS Records International, I got to, not a high level, but a manager of contract administration, which is just an utterly boring job, except, Bruce Springsteen is walking by, this type of stuff. But I'm not interacting with those people. They're just getting shown off on the floor to give you a vicarious thrill instead of salary. So, so worked there for 10 years. Did a bunch of things in database and things like that, but I was not a programmer. As I was working there, a lot of other things were happening in my life, including that I moved to the East Village, which I consider really my spiritual home, much more than anywhere else. In the East Village, I was living in a commune on Tompkins Square Park commune, and it was basically a financial collective. So we were all living together in various apartments that we had renovated in these old blocks. Lots of things happened there, some of which I will not discuss on this podcast, but I was living a countercultural lifestyle. No. Well, somebody I work with might listen to this. So I was living a countercultural lifestyle. Let me put it to you that way. Lifestyle. Very much a countercultural lifestyle at night and a corporate, weave suit during the day. So that was what I was doing for many years.
So can I just get a date on this then? So
I don't even remember.
No, it must be the 80s?
Oh, it's definitely the 80s, but exactly when in the 80s, I don't know. I'd have to I was, padded jackets and all that madness. And during this time, 80s shading into 90s, I got married to a lovely gentleman who's still a Facebook friend today. But who wanted a more conventional wife. I wasn't never interested in kids, no interest in them at all, ever. Ever. Oh my God, I couldn't even imagine what in the world would be wrong with me that I would become a mother. Yuck. So, if somebody else wants to do it, that's fine. Yeah. But no thanks. Yeah. No thanks.
I hear you.
Never wanted them. And not that big a fan, but I know, the children are our future. I want them to be well taken care of. I want every single child to eat. I want every single child to get an education. I want them to be handled with care. I just don't want to have to be the one doing it. Yeah. I'd rather pay taxes and make sure my taxes go to making sure every kid is doing well.
Oh, so. Terri, I've got a brilliant Instagram account for you if you're not already following.
What's that?
Rachel Cargill, who is an amazing anti-racist worker as well. She's got an account called Rich Auntie Supreme.
Oh, nice. I will check it out.
And it's for people like you and I who love being the aunties, but we also love closing the door and being super quiet.
Well, I'm not even that into being an auntie, to tell you the truth. The thing is, I want everybody to be well and happy. Yeah. And if I can do something to make that happen, I'm more than, but I don't need kids around me. I just don't even want it. It's never been my thing. I want them to be treated with the love that I was treated with, but I don't want to have to be the person who gives it. And I probably, who knows, maybe therapy would reveal what that's about. And I would go if it bothered me, but it doesn't bother me at all.
So, Terri, that's one of the reasons I do this podcast is there are many, many ways to lead a life. My dad's sister didn't have any children. My mum's sister didn't have any children. My grandma's sister didn't have any children.
Wow.
My grandma's cousin didn't have any children. It's like I've grown up around people who don't have children, so it doesn't feel like a big kind of scandalous thing that I'm not doing that. And I think I don't even know why I'd go to therapy for that, because, I even asked my auntie at my wedding, I was like, auntie, do you ever regret having children? And she went, not having children. She went, no, not really. And we were done.
And in that wonderful accent,
I was trying to kind of reap in all the kind of should I, shouldn't I, on my wedding night.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well,
so, it's just another way to lead a life,
It absolutely is. And those choices are personal choices, and nobody, including governments and religions, should have not even the beginnings of a say. You got no say over what I do with my body. But
and
anyway,
diversity as well. It's another aspect of, and that's a word that also makes me go, ooh,
I know,
authenticity, and that can go into that part of the Venn diagram there. I also understand but it's just another way to lead a life. It's another way to lead a life.
Perfectly legitimate.
I've chosen one way, and this is Amazing. So you just mentioned then, you know, the love that I was treated with. I'm interested to know that kind of, you were raised with really loving parents. What was
Oh
the
my God,
influence?
my parents thought I hung the moon.
Oh,
They, you know, we were kind of a lower, I mean, a working class home.
yeah.
My dad was a butcher to make money.
Uh-huh.
And my mom was she was a stay-at-home seamstress for a while. She had her own shop, but then various things made the shop close, and then she became a nurse's aide, and then you know, all of those types of lower working class jobs. But as far as love, um, they literally thought me and my brother hung the moon. Now my brother ended up having his ways of living, but as far as I will speak for myself, they raised me to be a star.
Mm.
They not necessarily I mean, it could be academic, it could be whatever it is. They raised me with the assumption that I was going to shine wherever I was in. And you know, there was a huge amount of racism in everyday education. They call it microaggressions now. We didn't have that language then.
The aggressions.
But but my parents were a bulwark against that, because you know, if you don't have some kind of balance to that, you know. So I was very fortunate in my parents, but I also think if there was a heaven, which being an atheist, I'm not sure I believe that, but if there was, just for the way they put up with me in my teenage years, they'd be there. Because I was 2 or 3 handfuls. I was running away. I was just a mess. And the thing is, a lot of it was not so I could do crazy stuff. It was so I could watch other people do crazy stuff and evaluate. I did a lot of that. I got into some situations that were just bizarre, that, you know, I mean, I ended up living at the Woodstock Hotel, which was a prostitute's hotel. I wasn't a prostitute, but I was, again, observing and going to high school, and then I working at Kentucky Fried Chicken in the graveyard shift on Times Square. And that was like, you know, I needed to make some money so I could move out of my parents' house. So this was I was just like a nut
You're
job.
wild. So this
was a wild kid.
70s then. This would have been in the 70s. So describe Times Square, New York.
Oh, it was
like,
what was it? But the thing that's crazy to me, I haven't been back in years, so I don't know what it's like now, really. But
safe.
Yeah, and you give up something for that safety. And right. I was not hurt, so it's easy for me to talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
like there were people who were hurt. And for that, I am extraordinarily sorry for what they went through.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a wonderland.
Uh-huh.
It was, I was not raised like that. You know, I was raised in this little lower working class Black religious household.
Yeah.
So Times Square, oh, honey, what is that person doing? Why are they doing it? I just, as a curious, observant kid at that time, who was always spinning stories, this was like story fodder. It was crazy. I don't know why I didn't become like a real writer, like actually writing books, but I didn't care if anybody knew, really. Yeah. I think I'm very, very self-centered. So I was just, all this experience, I was just absorbing it, you know? So anyway, so I worked at CBS for a long while. I started to get interested in, it's because I would get sent to various countries, to the CBS office to do whatever, right? All these contract things. And one of the places I got sent to was Japan. And I fell in love with these weird, wacky, for me, very unusual ways that some artists twist Western culture, add Japanese culture or other cultures or French culture or whatever. And I just thought it was remarkable. The way the music sounded was remarkable. And this is all a jumble because I don't have all the dates and everything.
No,
I never bothered. But I was doing that. I loved it. My very, very close friend, who's still a close friend of mine now, Tom, who's like he's older Japanese guy who's like a brother to me. It's like really family. And basically, we were trying to do a nonprofit to help Japanese culture that wasn't like this over plastic, corporate created kind of stuff filter into into America, basically. So we did this big event called Psycho Night, and
in Japan,
in New York.
In New York,
we were going back and forth to Japan by that point. I was out of CBS.
New York? Was this in the East Village?
No, we were in NoHo by that time. We found this big old place in NoHo. But anyway, so we created Psycho Night. We started working with the New Music Seminar, and then all kinds of things happened. We started managing some of the bands. We took one band called the Pugs to Lollapalooza. I mean, just mad, crazy. When I think about it now, it's just insane. I really ought to write it down. But anyway, all this stuff happened. And then my mom got sick with cancer. My dad had already passed. I started working for Prince, which really meant that I was working for the woman he hired to run his publishing company in New York. I was not the woman he hired. The woman he hired, his name is Kat Jackson. And she just pulled me in and said, you can be the GM for this publishing company. So I spent some time in Minnesota going back and forth and seeing
I'm gonna cry, I think. Hang on. I'm getting a bit emotional because I am such a huge Prince fan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were.
No. Such a huge Prince fan, and I kind of knew, like, from back when I knew you back in the day, I knew that you were like you'd kind of worked for Prince. And there's a photograph of you. I can remember seeing a photograph
somewhere,
really young, in some kind of scenario that involved Prince, and I was like,
yeah,
and every
somewhere.
time I was in a meeting,
I don't even know.
Like, she knows Prince,
but no, I don't really know him. I mean,
my dream.
I hear you. Oh, he was amazing. I was heartbroken when he passed. He was amazing. I mean, he was.
So what was your role there then, and what was that?
I was doing contract administration because that's what I'm really good at. Yeah. So she would come in, and she was. I don't even know where she is now. She's white, but she's very Black presenting, I guess you'd say. I think she might be mixed, but I don't even remember. Anyway, point being, she'd come in with like Sly and Robbie, who are these amazing.
I know who Sly and Robbie are.
Yeah, she'd come in Sly and Robbie. We signed them. She'd come in with, there was a woman named Nine, all these just amazing people.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the contract administration,
Yeah.
So and that actually comes full circle to what I'm trying to break into now. But so anyway, bottom line is, thank goodness for that job at Paisley Park, because it meant I could take care of my mother in good stead. And when she passed, I of course, you go crazy. And one of the things that I will never forget is that Pizzicato 5's music made her smile. She loved it. And this is not a alternative-y type of lady, right? And I thought, man, if I could bring that to the rest of the world, wow. Like that, here's this lady in this extreme situation in her life, but these people's music, which I loved, really brought her joy. So let's bring that joy out of Japan, hiding in Japan. It was called Shibuyake. And let's bring that out to the rest of the world. So bottom line, I'm sorry I'm going on so long.
Oh, no, please.
Almost 63 means it's a very long story. But anyway, bottom line is, my best friend Tom and I worked really hard. We got the record company here to let us get Pizzicato 5 signed to a label in America called Matador, which was a pretty powerful, at that time, indie label. Mm-hmm. That was like post Nirvana, like Nirvana had happened, so indie was still like going up, alternative. So we did that. We ended up booking a commercial of one song that I did the English lyrics for, and for what was it? I can't remember the perfume company, but it was massive. It was the biggest deal I ever made in my life on, you know, on my own terms. And of course, you don't, as the manager, we didn't see hardly any of it, but the bottom line is it was nice that it was there, and it's, you know, you're hearing it all over the TV. By that point, we booked a couple of tours in America and Europe. All these things happen. And even now, it's quite heartening, because even now, to people of a certain bent, if I say the word Pizzicato 5, the phrase Pizzicato 5, they'll be like, oh my God, I love them, and blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, oh, that's nice. At least that remains.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Legacy then.
Yeah, there's a legacy.
Long
I mean,
legacy.
It's a long legacy. We started working, then they broke up. But before they broke up, they asked us to come and manage them from Japan worldwide. And so we did that. I moved with my 13 boxes and my bicycle, because, you know, no kids. So, and my mom's gone, and my brother's wherever my brother is. And I'm like, I'll move to Japan. Why not? Mm-hmm. So moved to Tokyo. I've been here ever since. And basically all these things happening, and I mean, I've probably got some of the timeline wrong. All these things happening led to me thinking, okay, I'm going to be a real music manager and manage some other bands. So we found some other bands, some amazing, but one of my favorite bands in the world, a band called Feed. Weren't working with Pizzicato 5 anymore. Put my whole life into Feed. They were like the female-fronted Japanese version of Radiohead. They weren't doing the same kind of music, but oh my God, they're so amazing, that band. I just can't even tell you. And we got them onto which I can't remember. Was it Fuji Rock? I can't remember. You know, one of the side stages.
Yeah.
And they opened for Smashing Pumpkins last live at that time in Budokan. So it's like, I'll never forget that feeling. Like I'm standing here in Budokan, and here's my band. It's like I mean, just amazing, right?
Yeah.
But what was true, and what I was ignoring, is so I'm around all these amazing artists. I started out as an artist. I even had some bands when I was little, but I'm doing contract administration, or I'm on the phone being a manager, or I'm counting money, or and all this stuff for somebody else.
Now, you know Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way?
Yes.
She calls it a shadow artist.
Yes.
And
I was like, a shadow artist.
We get ourselves close, but really the artist lives inside us. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Absolutely right.
Absolutely
right. And I didn't want to step out and do art because I felt I get hit with depression.
Okay.
And I didn't want to connect with a band or do any of that. But I just have this, I don't know. I have this thing that I really want to get out there, right? So no more artist management, all of that stopped for a variety of reasons. And then Footloose and Fancy Free, except no money. And that's when, in Tokyo, in Shibuya, near Namiki-bashi. And that's when, podcast production and all these other things, we brought the Mozart effect stuff into Japan, all this other stuff, right? All these projects.
What's the Mozart effect? Is that for the children?
Well, I don't know if it's really true anymore. I used to really believe in it. It was basically the idea that, you can, some of it is baby oriented, helping your baby be more verbal or more verbal, I guess, increasing verbal acuity and ability. Some of it is, when you're studying, like Mozart is good music to have in the background kind of thing, and all that stuff. So there was a guy who was kind of promoting all of that, and we brought him here, and all these, I mean, so many things have happened. Dang. Anyway, bottom line is,
keep it coming, Terri.
I know, it's very seldom that I sit down and think about this stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So almost there, I go into, so I'm broke, and we're broke, projects come, projects go. I'm sick of working for clients.
Mm-hmm.
I've had amazing clients and people who've become friends to this day. But working for clients is really hard.
Yeah.
It's like you have 5 or 6 bosses or 10 or 12 bosses instead of one boss, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't really like sales at all because I feel like, you either get it or you don't. Why do I have to convince you? Mm-hmm. No, it's not my thing at all. And so I'm at 6s and 7s, and I walk into the Apple store. Would have been the end of 2010. And I say to Andrew Shuttleworth, who you probably know.
I know him very well.
Who's a massive mensch. That is a mensch of a guy. And I'm all depressed. And I walk in, I'm like, Andrew, I got to fix my 2008 MacBook Pro or 2007, whatever it was, because without this, I can't survive, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. He said, why don't you apply at Apple? And I said, because I can't speak Japanese. And I don't know if you noticed, but this is Japan. And long story short, I applied. And after some interviews, I came on part-time. And I've been there ever since. It'll be 10 years next March.
I mean, that's just such an incredible pivot. I mean, what was so when I met you then, I mean, we just kind of compressed that into a really small, like when I met you, I know that you were doing this and that, like, to me, you were very just impressive as a person.
Oh, God.
But
I was falling apart.
Well, I know, but I realized that, but that wasn't my business actually. And I just stayed in my business. And
right.
I know you had some great support from people like Julia Maida and
absolutely love Julia. Yes,
yeah, yes. I was with her last week. And so what was it that kind of kept you going? So there must have been about 10, I'm thinking chronological wise, 2010. 2001, I arrived in Japan. I must have met you around 2008, I think.
Right.
And then I was on the board of directors from 2010 to 2013.
Right.
During which time you were also on the board of directors with me.
Yes.
So
kind of kicking and screaming because I was like, I'm not a board of
directors. Let me out of here.
Kind of. Nothing wrong with few, but it was a time of great turmoil.
But then it was a time of great turmoil, and also, and you say there was nothing wrong with few, but I can let's cycle back to that as well.
Yeah.
Like I'll come back to that in a minute because I just there's something I want to honor you for there as well. But so what were you doing so when did you land in Japan for kind of permanently? 2000?
About 99, I think.
98, okay,
something like
that. So then all that happened. And then
many things happened.
Many things happened.
I mean, I'm out of the country a lot of the time, flying around, doing stuff. Oh, in the middle of all this madness, 2003, 2004, I'm flying around with Lauren and Chris doing politics. I mean, the reality is, I will talk about the specifics of good or bad, but I really caught the bug of becoming a more active American citizen in terms of my responsibilities, right? So part of that ended up with me and them in Iowa campaigning in the dead of winter with not the right clothes, because I forgot what winter could be like. And of course, Iowa in the winter is brutal, knocking on people's doors, I mean, just amazing experiences. And I think I will say this, those are some of the things I'm most proud of. All of those political trips, I'm not religious at all, but I think that there's a human spirit thing that happens when you give of something in yourself to something larger than yourself. And the American project, for me, I mean, for obvious reasons, the American project is my larger than myself thing. It's not a religion, but it's so tantalizing what my country could be and what we were supposed to be. And then the gap between that and what we are. So that's you talk about a grail, a grail to go for. So any little tiny push I can push in the direction of those amazing documents that founded us, but didn't include my ancestors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I can move America forward, I mean, dang, that's a big project. And that is a big thing for me.
Love it. Actually, this is really, really interesting and very, very important at the moment. I think what you just said there, I actually got goosebumps on my knees that I'm now blushing. This is my,
oh, you're funny.
Anybody who listens to this or anybody who's done any workshops or works with me knows I have something called FBGs, and it's like full body goosebumps.
Wow.
And then when it really goes wild, my knees start flushing.
Good. Look, so you're a very sensitive person.
Yes, indeed. Newsflash. So when you said something there about the human spirit, you said something about when it has a bigger project than itself, the human spirit gets moved, and Project America is yours. You mentioned the documents that started the country, but how your ancestors were not only not included, but tell me where I'm wrong, but specifically excluded.
That's right.
So what happened? So how on earth do you keep yourself buoyant in all of this, Terri?
I don't. I've just come out of a really rough patch. I have a whole bunch of people I need to call back and reconnect with, because I just went straight down. And yeah, it's not, I mean, everybody's got issues of one kind or another. I am so fortunate. I am not complaining. I'm sitting here with my, my equipment, looking at my cat photo. I'm looking at my beloved cats from years ago. Those are my beloved spirits. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that my project is to be a better American citizen myself.
Yeah.
And to, by example, and also by pushing politically, help America move in the direction it's meant to move in. And that acknowledges the horror. Has to acknowledge it. I mean, you have to acknowledge the horror. And sometimes that brings me to the brink of just giving up. But I'm still here. And I also think those moments, those political moments, calling them political seems so, the word politics has such a bad taste in your mouth. Oh, politics, but that's ridiculous. Politics is how we commune as a society. Taxes are how we support what we support in a society. So, am I better than everybody else? I don't have to participate in politics? No, of course not. And I felt I was better than everybody else for years, and I'm trying to make up for lost time. So I do believe in the human spirit. I do believe that there's a thing. I will not call it God because I have no idea, and I kind of doubt it. But I also believe, who cares? I don't care. What is, so, if there is one, great. If there isn't one, is that going to change how I treat people? No. What the hell? I just get so impatient with this. How will you have morality if you don't have some kind of religion? Or how are you going to, if you don't, I get like impatient. Like, all right, you know what? If that's good for you, that's fine. For me, I am such a flawed human being on so many levels. Oh, dude. Yes. But if I can do one or two righteous things a day, and I mean that in the street way of looking at it, that's righteous. That's well done. Yeah. That supports community. Yeah. That to me, that's a good thing. I don't need a Bible to tell me that. What's wrong? What would be wrong with me as a human being if I had so little fellow feeling that I needed somebody to tell me not to hurt other people? What is that? I don't get that. I don't get it. Sorry. Sorry. Do not get it.
No, I'm with you. And I mean, we're going into an area that I could talk about all day. Christopher Hitchens, the old windbag. Who I love Hitchens, and I love like spiritual, like
it mixes.
Yeah, it mixes. And also, what is it that makes me have goosebumps like that? Obviously, it's my physiological reaction to your truth.
Exactly.
But what is that?
What is it?
Is that kind of?
I don't know.
He said something that really struck me, which was like, how the hell did humans manage to do humaning and to continue as a society pre 5,000 years ago, when this organized religion, monotheistic religion, started? They must have been communing in that way.
They must have been. They must have
been not killing each other. They must have been communing.
Or somebody didn't kill somebody, because otherwise our asses wouldn't be sitting here, right?
Our DNA wouldn't be.
Exactly.
So it's very interesting to me, that is, and I love a bit of Christopher Hitchens. I do.
He's good. He's good. It's funny, I don't read Dawkins. I don't really, I call myself, I guess, a gentle atheist.
A gentle atheist.
Because I'm not like radical about it. Like if
you're not pushy with it. Yeah.
No, if you want to do, one of my dearest friends' mothers is extremely religious. Love her to pieces. Fight anybody for this lady.
Yeah.
And what am I going to do? Say to her, don't use this thing which brings you such comfort? What kind of an asshole would I be then?
Yeah.
Just don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
I hope this is explicit. Ooh.
Oh, we can, yeah, full range, please.
I just realized I'm too relaxed.
No, please. It's full range. This is about storytelling, and this is keeping it real, and it's truthful, and it's adulting, and you know.
And I'm from New York, so you know.
And I'm from Liverpool. So.
All right, then. Are you really from Liverpool?
I'm from about 4 miles away, so just.
Oh my God, that is so cool.
It's got that kind of. There's a very
so cool.
You know, yay, Liverpool, but also the place we trafficked people.
I know. I'm only thinking about the Beatles. I'm sorry. I'm old enough.
John Lennon, and I'm thinking about the simpatico between New York and Liverpool, and how John Lennon used to say that New York reminded him of Liverpool, and I was always like, ooh. So
I tell you, I mean, we're so big human beings. I mean, we really, really have so much bigness in our, like, potentiality, and narrowness, while important potentially as a tool. Like, I think narrowness sometimes is really useful, right?
Yeah.
But if you're using it as a conscious tool, that's one thing. But if you're using it as your life fallback, fine, but what kind of life does that mean you're gonna lead? I don't get it. And I'm cool with that too. If that's who somebody wants to be, but don't put chains on me. Do not.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. So good, Terry. Because it's like, if your narrowness is here and you're going to use that to beat me with, or as you very, very literally said, put chains on me. Again, I've got goosebumps, but not the good ones this time.
It's the truth.
Yeah, mate, it is the truth. And this is something else I want to honor you for as well, which is it's in this kind of lineage of conversation that we're talking about now, is when we were on the board together, you kept trying to kind of school me in the gentlest possible way about things, but I didn't have the ears to hear that stuff at the time.
I hear
you would say to me, and again, you are like 14 years my senior as well, so you're
right.
Also how can I say it, wise.
Older. You could say older.
Wise.
I don't know about all that, but I'm definitely older.
Yeah, you are definitely older. This is what it means. This is numbers. Let me educate my listeners now. When one person is 63 and the other person is 49, the person who's 63 is older.
That is a
That's
truth.
The takeaway you take away from today. I've got goosebumps all over my body from that jam.
You're too funny.
But you kind of said to me, yeah, few for empowering white women, and I was like a bit like, and you probably saw that kind of like that like rabbit in the headlights, deer in the headlights kind of thing that you get.
I remember that
from white women who are like,
but it wasn't meant to be like. It wasn't white women standing with their hands saying, "Don't come in." That was not what that, because I couldn't join an organization.
That's not how we do it.
No, and that's not how y'all do it.
Like me, I'm going to use the words of the woman who wrote White Fragility now. I used to be a vegetarian, you know. So, but the thing is, I think, and then again, one day I can remember coming to your flat for a consultation, a tech consultation, because I didn't know my arse from my elbow, and I just needed to invest in somebody to sit down with me on my phone, and like you set up my mail for me, I remember, and showed me how to do that, like just really simple things that were so hard for me, and I'm a radical outsourcer, probably something I learned from your friend Lauren as well.
It's very important.
Again, then you started telling me about what it's like being a Black woman in the world, and again you probably saw that thing like, oh, what, there's a difference, I did what kind of thing, you know, aren't we both middle class living in the same place, in the same for empowering women organization, aren't we? And I just didn't know I did not know how to hear that yet. So
right.
A couple of years ago, when I started to kind of get with the program, should we say, like when something like there was a particular book and a particular online thing, call to action from an amazing woman called Layla Saad, that I was like, all these like things started flooding into my mind, that like one of the calls to action we're meant to do is to record, write down all the times when we've ignored something, or when we've been fragile, and all these kinds of things. And I was like, oh, Terri Macmillan, she was dropping me so many little morsels, and then probably stepping back and going, is she ready yet? Is she ready yet?
Well,
is she ready yet?
It wasn't even that. I mean, I'm very spontaneous, and I have no memory.
Yeah.
It's a great combination of things.
Yes.
Very spontaneous, no memory of what I said. So unless you reminded me, I wouldn't have. But you know, here's the deal. I have a very close relationship to white folks that I absolutely love. They are my family, including my ex-husband. So it's always a little struggle, because I do have I do feel like, okay, I've got an opportunity to just say something, and they have an opportunity to say something back to me. You know what I mean? There's a trust level. I can't do this with a white supremacist who's like, you know, bound in the dirt and with the MAGA cap on, because what would be the point? You know, no. I am not called to change the minds of people who hate me.
No.
That's not my ministry.
I am not called to change the minds of people who hate me. Oh my God,
it's true. It's just truth. I mean, some people are called to that, and I listen to them on podcasts and I watch their TED Talks, and I think that's a saint. That's somebody I can't be. No. But amongst the white folks that I love, who I consider family, there's that element of trust. So even if they don't listen the first time, I know they're smart. They're all smart. They're cogitating, and I'm learning from them.
Yeah. Because
to be honest, I learned a lot about feminism.
Yeah.
That I didn't even really realize in few.
Yeah.
And my friends, my very close friends who are white women who are stone cold feminists, some of our recent arguments have been about which is most important. And, you know, in the Black community, some Black feminists would be like, well, wait a minute, you know, screw that. Yeah. You get to choose. And I identify as Black first because
that's what we see.
That's what we see, and that's what people react to, and that's how I was raised. But I'm more of a feminist now in part because of conversations like that. So it's not all one-way learning, it's an exchange. And, you know, I'm following some amazing Black women on Instagram now. This woman, Sonia Renee Taylor.
Just listen to a podcast with her on today. The Body is Not an Apology.
Apology. That book. Oh, highly recommended. And she does on Instagram, she does What's Up, Y'all, which is her thing. And she will preach a little sermon, and it's not even preaching a sermon. She'll just like be moved to say something. Now, I don't agree with single thing she says, but what power in that woman, what discernment. She is amazing.
Talk about righteous.
Oh, I don't know what she's channeling, but damn.
Steady voice.
Yes. And she's gorgeous. And she's just, she just makes me feel like there is a new world possible. And I also want to call out, now I'm a science fiction fantasy person, so Octavia Butler's been a foremother for years, but I can only read her stuff when I'm very stable, like emotionally, because it's that big. But there's a podcast now called Octavia's Parables, and she has predicted almost everything we've been going through with this administration and the rise of the rise of toxic capitalism and the rise of oligarchs and all that. But she does it in such a way that is so real that you go, I can't read more of this. But the podcast is like going through the story, like telling the story. So it doesn't feel it's not as hurtful to read. And it's done by this woman named Toshi Reagan, who is part of this amazing, I think maybe even New York family of folk singers. And they did an opera of these stories. And Renee Brown, just look for Octavia's Parables. It is magnificent with questions.
Love it.
So good.
Amazing.
So good.
And you know, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, I'll link to all these things in the show
Thank
notes.
you. I'll send you links. It'll make it easier.
I would love that.
No worries.
And it's incredible. Sometimes I'm shocked at how shocked I have been at what's happened, because it includes such an unbelievable lack of imagination to be in this toxic capitalist thing that we've got going on now, and this patriarchy and what have you. It's such an unbelievable lack of imagination to continue to stay in there. It's like, this author, like, she's already authored it. She's obviously a prophet, but it's like, it was already in place.
And she's gone. She passed. She 13 years ago, I think, she fell, hit her head, and passed away.
She's only come onto my radar recently because of the path that I've been presented with, which I'm quietly following, I should say, quietly following, because actually it's my work to do.
Right.
And I do it for myself, so I can be in the world with more awareness and righteousness as well, I think, Terri, and so that I can actually respond in a more wise way to people like you when you go. I think what I'm feeling like now is like I'm a cicada, and you were like, here you go, and then I went in the ground for like 7 years, and then I was like, oh, and I'm just at the point where I'm crawling up a tree now, and I'm like sitting in my little case like that, and then like some point I'll be like going like that for a little while. I'm actually wearing a cicada around my neck today.
Is it a real one?
It's a jade one that I got in China.
Oh, how beautiful. That color is amazing.
Thank you.
That's like fall all on
well,
it's gorgeous.
They're all dead now, but it's lovely, yes.
And it matches your beautiful art. I am impressed, dude.
No mistake. So our Jeanette served as well.
Anyway. Lovely, Jeanette. Yes.
So this kind of brings me to like, it kind of talking about Octavia's parables and talking about these prophecies, and then this kind of what's happening at the moment, and the American what did you call it, project, and the documents around which it's built, which didn't include your ancestors and well excluded your ancestors, and yet you still seem to have this swelling love and optimism about your beloved America. What's your, I mean, how do you resolve these two things? Because right now I cannot resolve that myself as an outsider looking in. I'm finding it really hard, and what your words are so, you used the word heartening earlier, but your words are really heartening for me to hear such optimism and love and trust in the notion of it.
It's a little bit of naivete, willful naivete, but it is also it's also because I have distance privilege. Let's not forget that. I am here. And as many issues as Japan has with race, and it has many, many issues with race, not only for Black people, you know, Naomi Osaka, there's a reason why she says what she says, but here's the thing. I believe that many Black people, and those are the people I know best, and so that's who I'm going to talk about, have been saying things like, this is a mistaken trajectory for this country for hundreds of years. It's not like it's new. I keep on Twitter, I'm pretty active on Twitter, I keep on Twitter posting the debate between a guy named William Buckley, who was considered at that time the father of conservatism, and James Baldwin, who was an actual amazing Black intellectual. And this was back in 84, I think, 85, I don't remember now. I'll send you the link. But this debate was just seminal for me, because it was basically Baldwin saying the premise, or the premise of the debate was, all these things you people, meaning the white patriarchy, are talking about, all these things, they were not meant for me. And you need to acknowledge that they weren't meant for me. And Baldwin was like, yeah, these all sound great, but what is the reality? And of course, he was a genius and so eloquent.
Yeah. No.
And Buckley, as your basic conservative, is like, no, this is not a legitimate complaint. America is better for the Negro, which is what they used to call us then, than you say. And it was wretched, but so powerful. And I think what makes me feel possibility is that people like James Baldwin and Octavia Butler and so many others, they may leave for a while, but they come back because because of those documents, I guess, because there isn't, as far as I know, a modern country with founding principles that are so enticing. They're so enticing.
Mm-hmm.
All men are created equal. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I mean, goddamn. I mean, that's pretty nice, right? So maybe it is my knowledge of the Constitution and my knowledge of the Bill of Rights and my knowledge of our history that makes me say, we can do it. We can make Reagan's City on the Hill. His version would have just had white people or Blacks who were subservient to him. But we can make more of Obama's City on the Hill, or Biden's or Kamala's City on the Hill, which is not, what is diverse? It's just a bunch of human beings of different colors, shapes, sizes, families, all of that, and we can celebrate it. Why the hell not? Why not?
Well,
There's no
that here in Japan as
now that's an interesting thing. And this I am not really, because I don't speak and read the language well enough, even. It's very shameful. I'm trying to get better.
Same.
I'm trying to get better. Must get better. But I live in a half Japanese, half Western bubble, because I work at a Japanese company. I mean, I work at an American company, but in a pretty much completely Japanese context.
Yeah,
but I mean, some of my best friends are Japanese. That sounds very bad, but that's the truth of it. But they are the types of folks who left because Japan, with all the great things about it, is not necessarily, or has not been necessarily, a place where individuality and creativity were broadly celebrated.
Okay, let me rephrase that or re-emphasize.
Please.
We have that in Japan.
Perfect.
Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Like, I kind of feel like
perfect.
Like I like my friendship circle. Of course, over the 19 years I've been here, it's kind of become more. It's become like I have my A team, you know, like
yes, of course.
Similarities between us,
of course.
But, yeah, I kind of feel like we have that here. Like it's you and I probably have friends who have children of all ages, which you probably wouldn't have that much in. It would probably be more like layers of people doing things.
It's a stratified kind of hierarchical. Exactly. That is very true in America.
And you know, the board of directors that you and I were on, there was lots of different kinds of people in there, albeit, you know, mainly light-skinned people. And but like there's something, but then again it's a bubble. It is a bubble, but it's the hill, whatever that hill is. And I'm not saying it's not perfect, and it's
no
riddled with privilege, and it's riddled with supremacies.
Yes.
But riddled, but there it is.
There is some good
maybe I'm just
freedom here. There is a good level of freedom here that you can find that might be harder, except I grew up in New York City. So, and I don't know what New York City's like now because I haven't been back in so long, but the New York City I grew up in, and that includes the 70s, I think that was where my formative creative expectations were forged. Like, what do you have? You have every type of friend. What do you have? You have every type of stimulus. What do you have? You're seeing art all the time. It's not a matter of you're playing music. I grew up in New York in a very, I don't want to even say artistic, because that's not what it was about.
That you breathe. It was just
the air you breathe. Just the air you breathe. I mean,
that was
you know,
what do you call it? Like that was the water you swam.
That was the atmosphere.
That was
and that's not easy to do here in Japan. No. It's not easy. I could probably do it, but I need to settle some of my own internal struggles so that I feel comfortable opening up to other folks. I mean, I have these wonderful people who I do music with, and I can't seem to get it together to reconnect with them and do music, and I love them. And I'm missing some pieces. And I think part of it is that, you know, it's a question of time, but that's bullshit. Because in reality, if I were determined, you get up at 5 o'clock. I mean, we all know the miracle mornings. You get up at 5, you write your 150 pages. You know, I have nothing stopping me except myself.
Human body as well, you know. This human vessel that we occupy.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, I am more activated now after work talking to you. I must need a Sarah pill, because usually when I come home
every week.
when I come home, honey, it ain't I'm like, people call me and I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want any except stimuli I want. And these days with all the madness, sometimes I just go to bed. Sometimes I'm like, I give up.
A lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot going on.
It's a lot
going on.
It's a lot. Yeah, it is. It's a lot. So that kind of brings me talking about this, and this is just a very odd thing that I wanted to ask you about.
Please.
Because, again, many ways to lead a life, and people always think they're too old to do this or too old to do that. And you said this is not off limits. So
no,
10 years ago, you decided to get some radical and invest in loads of orthodontic work, right?
Yes, I did.
And you also recommended your dentist to me. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. Yes, she's wonderful. Actually, I think it's longer. I think it's less time. I think it's like 4 years ago. I'm still paying for it. So it's probably more like 4. Yeah.
What made you give yourself permission to do that, Terri?
Well, I had my teeth were going in their own direction for a while. And then I had a bike accident where I basically landed on my face. Which this is when I lived in Gaku-Gedai-Gaku. And when I say I landed on my face, I landed on my teeth, my front teeth. And they began to migrate and go in places, go where no teeth have gone before. And I lived with that for a couple of years and just uncomfortable, felt bad about myself, wouldn't smile. And I was going through a whole set of other things at the time. So it was just, so I got the job, started, getting a little bit more stable and solvent, and then said, okay, this has to be done. And she was I found her in Facebook because she had many, He Told Me Dental. She has 2 offices now. And I told her the most important thing you have to understand about me is that I do not like pain of any type, anytime. I will avoid everything to avoid pain. So please understand. And she's American trained. So I said, whatever, does your gas go to 11? That's my biggest question. And she took really good care of me. She does. She continues to.
Yeah.
And I don't regret it. I'm not like out there looking for guys or anything, or girls either. So I don't really care whether people think it's weird or not. But I wanted my teeth to feel good.
I think it's brilliant. Because here, like people in my mum and dad's generation, they're probably 10 years older than you. And they'd be like, oh, if there's one thing I'd get done, it would be to get my teeth whitened or some veneers or something like that. And I'm like,
well, just go do it if you can afford to do it.
Oh no, I couldn't, not at my age. Do you know what I mean? So
what? Oh no, honey.
So I'm like, well,
we are not rocking that.
No, not at all. And by the way, the work looks amazing. You look great.
Thank you. I feel better, know?
Of course. And I can see that you're more apt to smile and stuff like that. So really, I mean, it's not just about the dental work. It's not just about that. It's like that.
I feel more confident.
Versus that. It's just it makes life so much easier, doesn't it?
It really does. Poor people who can't afford dental work.
Yeah.
You got to donate to whatever dental work organizations there are, because it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference to your life, of course.
Of course. I mean, I just don't feel. I mean, I'm very careful with my teeth, but I smile whenever I want to, and I'm a smiler.
Yes, you are.
I'm simultaneously a complete hermit and a people person. It's very, very confused. Yeah. And so I don't understand myself anyway, but I really love to smile.
We're allowed to be multifaceted human beings. Ta-da. Amazing. And that's another thing I always loved about you, Terri. You'd walk into the room and go, hello, humans. And I was like, this is some next level shit. This is some next level shit. We're only trying to empower women, and you're just like, hello, humans.
Presumably accurate. I mean, if you're not a human, if you're an alien, hello to you as well.
Hallelujah.
That covers it all. When you ask me, I circle back to what gives me optimism or hope in the
Yes.
American documents and in the American future is that hello humans thing, because they're humans, we're humans.
Yeah.
That's a basic level of commonality. And we ourselves make it into a set of like fucking bizarre obstacles, as opposed to
we're weird.
we are weird creatures. And you know, we're
As
busy
opposed to,
as opposed to, so I know racists. I grew up in
America.
America. not that that's the only place they are, but they are prominent over there. I mean, stone cold. I mean, there's places in America I will not go to.
Yes.
By myself still. Yeah. Which is insane. But anyway, and social media has made it very easy to hear their thinking, right? Mm-hmm. And the knee-jerk, I don't want to say even narrow, the knee-jerk no, when they consider the existence of somebody like me, is palpable. And you really sit there, I sit there and I think, so first of all, I'm as human as you. I mean, I know we're not going to be on the same page anyway, but I'm as human as you. Second of all, my skin is not scary. There's not a thing scary about my skin. Mm-mm. It's epidermis. It's the largest organ on my body. It's the largest organ on your body. And ipso facto, I'm not sure if I use that right, but I really like that term.
Me neither.
Way back in the day, you looked like me. Your ancestors came from the same place my ancestors did. And the only reason your happy ass looks like that is because y'all couldn't take the heat. And you headed out over the peninsula. And so because you won't acknowledge that white supremacy not only exists, but it pervades American society, you have no choice. If you're stuck in that place, which is A, untrue, and B, like you could see it's untrue. So once you decide that's true, that whites are supreme, then you can't see me as a human. Like you can't. Like it's logical, you know?
It's entirely logical.
So my thing is, do you realize the flaw in your argument though? Like, do you get that it's crazy? Do you get that this is a mental illness thing? I shouldn't say mental illness. I don't mean that.
No.
I take that back. Do you get that this is a willful ignoring of human reality and human community? Because racists are not mentally ill. I used to think they were, and I used to really in my head go, they must be crazy. No. They are fearful and stupid. Fearful and stupid.
Thank you.
Don't you think? I mean, am I wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. There's another elder who, Mama Louisa Tish, I think is her name. And she says that she does describe it as a kind of nationwide mental illness that affects all of us, but she says it more eloquently than that. It's right. Something else. She says,
I have to check her out.
It is some kind of, this was against the backdrop of another one of these kind of women who masquerade as Black activist was revealed to be a white woman.
Oh, this is the whole thing.
Not Rachel Dole. I don't want to go here as the topic.
No.
But somebody else.
There's like 4 or 5 of them now that got prominent, and I'm kind of like, okay.
Like this is part of some deep ancestral white supremacist healing that needs to happen. That this is going on anywhere. And she said you've got Black people pretending to be white people pretending to be Black, Jewish people pretending to be this, Latinos pretending to be Jew. She just said it's like this kind of,
we can't just be who we are.
She used the words, it was something along the line of mental, like there's something, there's
another way to put it. There's something ill. But I don't, I hate to say mental illness, only because I don't want to stigmatize my folks.
Exactly. I'm sorry to anybody who's listening who feels hurt and upset by
that.
No,
please.
Let's drag and drop that, Terry, and relabel it. It's some kind of malaise or some kind of
well, it's hatefulness is one thing.
It's that's part of this whole system has created this oddness that exists there. Anyway, that's what she describes it in that way. And
I'll check her out. I'll check her out.
Once you've committed to something like that, of course you have to keep the illusion going.
And you look at our current president.
Imagination. That's the thing that keeps me from not just falling into a great deal of ancestral deep hatred is I have an imagination. And my imagination, as I'm sure yours does, gives me access to something. And the access that it gives me is the idea that something might be better in the future, but it might not be in my generation even. And and we've used the word ancestor a great deal on this call, on this conversation.
Yes.
And so we're constantly honoring going back. We're constantly and thinking about the going forward as well.
Yes.
And I look at those people and I just think of, seriously, where's your imagination?
Yeah. Well, if they have any imagination, they're using it in the service of racism and sexism.
Imagined.
And they don't. They don't want to be, you see these "you will not replace us" kind of thing, people.
Where's your imagination? Is that all you
Why would that? Yeah. So my thing is this. So first of all, who cares? I mean, this is not very empathic. Empathetic. I tend to be more empathetic than that, but who cares if you're replaced or not? You're going to be dead. So it doesn't really matter. Like, build your legacy while you're alive. And do you want your legacy to be this legacy of hate and lies? Like, just tissues of lies. I mean, Trump is the perfect person for these people because he's like them expanded, them times 1,000, and they love him because of that. So it doesn't matter how he treats them. It doesn't matter how things go. It doesn't matter what he does. They are predisposed because if he goes down, they are deathly afraid of having to confront what they are. They are deathly afraid of it. It's incredible. And I feel like, damn.
Yeah,
what?
There's a whole other conversation there.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, man.
I mean, Terri, this is a conversation. I could do it with you again.
I know. It's good to talk about these things, though.
And anyway, let's save that for another time, just because I don't want to take up too much of your time. You're going to be exhausted after this.
Oh, but this has been great talking to you. I'm telling you, it's like a Sarah pill. I have more energy. I might get up and vacuum after this.
Same, except besides the vacuum. And so what's next for Terri Macmillan? So the first thing I want to note, and I think you should all tune into this, is Terri's going to be the keynote speaker at the Career Strategies Seminar for Empowering Japan. So we've come full circle. I've got FBG again, and she will be the keynote speaker at this, cycling back after 10 years absence to this, maybe 8 years absence to this great organization. Tell us about that, and then tell us what's in the future for Terri.
Well, I have to thank you for even bringing this up as a possibility, because it wasn't something that was on my mind at all. Not because I don't care about few, but I just, the brain is filled with other things. And the board, the board was delightful. And I wrote a script, and I'm kind of working on it still, because I want to incorporate, I'm hoping to be both honest and empowering and inspiring. Because, you know, it's not like me to get up there and go, everything now is wonderful butterflies and roses. Because actually, no, because who's going to believe that? But I remember that feeling of Fuse CSS as being pivotal.
Same.
So good, learning so much. Exactly. It was like, what, 2 days, right? Like, was it 2 days? I don't
One
remember.
day, I think, and there was all different speakers and all different rooms.
Oh, it was delightful.
Yeah.
It was a burst of energy, a burst of knowledge.
Yeah.
I just loved it. And so what I want to sort of do, hopefully, with the speech is say to folks, yeah, I know we're home. It's virtual, but in reality, even more opportunity to mingle virtually in the break-off rooms and stuff, and to take in, this is sunlight for us as women who are of a certain global mindset. This is sunlight for us. So let the sun shine in, you know, just forget about whether you're sitting at home and, you know, folks are, you know, bats are flying around the belfry or whatever the heck is going on. Just, you're a sponge, and this CSS this day is for you to soak it all up.
Yeah.
And in comfort, you know, let's face it, there's something to be said for comfort.
Absolutely.
You know? So I've been writing the speech with the idea of flow, of attaining flow, but because I'm a fan of Mihaly, Csikszentmihalyi, but
yeah,
he's really good. But I'm still working on it. I will have it finished by this weekend. I'm going to work on it this weekend, and then it's into practice mode. Oh dear! I've
just knocked a file over.
Oh dear! So I was like, somebody don't like practice mode, but.
No,
but yeah, so
right, I don't really have a script. I have a post-it note with 3 bullet points on these days, and then
that's fantastic.
Maybe not actually, maybe I do write just something out, but
yeah, but I for me, I don't want to, because I can talk. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You need to corral.
I need to corral my own brain.
Yeah,
because otherwise,
I totally understand. Yeah, that's exactly what I need to do. Yeah, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to you.
Well, they're in for a massive treat. There's no way they can't be influenced by you, and like in my own business, like I incorporate my latest little thing that I wake up and I'm like, ooh, boom XYZ. That's the next thing. So it's
that's nice.
I need to have speakers from boomers, Generation X. I think, are you Generation X?
I think I'm a late. Oh no, I'm a late boomer. I think.
Okay, late boomer. You read X though. You read Generation X.
I do.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, yeah. I have no idea. In fact, I can't even keep it in my head what all these.
Anyway, and then so you know, my last interview was an 18-year-old.
Oh, lovely.
Right, so very different, very
lovely.
Different. Not so much life, but all her life is one complete life, right? So
yep.
It's interesting and fascinating.
I'm going to listen to that for sure. Because you know, I love it. I love it. You know, the thing I should correct myself, because it's not that I hate younger people. But I feel like there needs to be a balance to the youth focus that society has.
Yeah. 100%.
And so my thing is, we're not dead yet. And there's no reason why we can't learn and grow and publish things and all of that, just like younger people do, but with more experience. So there you go then. And if we do it in conjunction with younger folks, awesome. If we do it on our own, awesome, you know. So that, I mean, I think that's really what I really should say, because I don't want anybody to think I'm like anti-youth. I'm making a conscious effort to balance the extraordinarily heavy youth focus that exists in our cultures.
Love it. And the way that I'm incorporating that into my business is through eldership. So
Oh,
I'm
I love that.
people to be elders, even younger people if they've been working with me for a long time. So what's next then, Terri, for you after the CSS? Will you retire in Japan? What are your dreams for your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s?
I will, I'm trying to get healthier. That's one thing.
Yeah.
I go back and I go in and I go out, and when the black dog hits, I go in, and then things go off the rails.
Black dog meaning depression.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the good thing is I do come back, and I'm trying to set up my life in a more, thoughtful way. So health is a key thing. Then also art is a key thing. I have so many projects. No, not so many, but I have a bunch of key projects around the Hello Human moniker. My podcast was supposed to be weekly, but it's turning out to be like monthly. But, I decided not to beat myself up for that, because that's what I usually do. I'll beat myself up, say, you are horrible, and then nothing continues. So wild goal. Then beat it, and then beat yourself up. Oh my God, I want to coach you right now, but we're not going to do that. So I was like, every 2 weeks, I was and
like,
it's wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful. I am over ambitious and then disappoint myself and others. So I need to, I'm just recalibrating right now.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with my toys.
Yeah.
Because I can plug my guitar into this thing and noodle around on the guitar, which makes me feel good, and sing, and just trying to be, what's the word? Be creative and be prolific. And that the prolific part is what I have always suffered with. And so I'm trying to give myself slightly smaller goals. Like I was just thinking, so what you should try to do is once or twice a week, plug your guitar in. Now you're able to record without a problem. It's all set up, and just record some of these. I have like 300 snippets of songs. And it's like, record one of these stupid snippets, don't be ridiculous. So I'm trying to do that. Hello Human is meant to focus on creativity.
Love it.
But I think, we've got to set up our interview for you. We'll do that. And I have all these people I want to interview, but I'm still kind of not together in my head yet. So I need to get a little bit. I'm probably going to interview Chris next as a chef. I did Lawrence, which is wonderful. I was really happy I did that one. There's a couple of people I support on Patreon who are amazing and delightful. And there's one Black woman named Azine, and I want to support her. I want to interview her. I have a whole list. I have a list of about 50 people. But I just
51. I'll be very, very happy.
Oh, honey, you're going to be like 3, maybe 4. Well, we have to just set up this. Now that we have this all sorted, we have to just set up the specifics, and we'll be able to make it happen. Yeah. And my newsletter is, I do it, I stall, but I'm just determined to keep trying. Keep trying. Don't freak out about it. No. Don't beat yourself up. My rebel nature stops me from doing what I know Terri, I want to do.
You're a grown-ass woman. You are 100% sovereign, and you can do what you want.
I am 100% sovereign. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, I am. Mm-hmm. Indeed, I am. As are you.
Yes, Queen.
Yes.
So with that, where can people find you, Terri?
My best suggestion would be Twitter. Mm-hmm. Because all my things, that's where I am most of the time.
Handle? Handle. Do people still say handle?
Yeah, I'm not sure that they do, but I'll just say it. My handle is Terri in Tokyo, but it's TERRI N.
So it's Terri in Tokyo.
It's Terri in Tokyo, yeah. So it's TERRINTOKYO. And if you hit me on Twitter, you'll probably see most of what I'm into. I warn you, there's a lot of politics right now for obvious reasons. November 3rd. Any Americans listening to this, get in touch if you're going to vote, and specifically Democratic, because I do not have to be nonpartisan. So if you're not sure what to do and you're an American abroad, Vote from Abroad has some great help, and they're also doing a Sunday Zoom where they're helping people like for 24 hours on Sundays. To just go to votefromabroad.org and you will be able to get yourself hooked up.
Votefromabroad.org. Well, it's appreciated that you're doing that on behalf of your country. And Terri, I've absolutely loved talking to you today. It's been stimulated me as well, actually.
Thank you. I'm going to get the vacuum cleaner, I'm telling you.
Oh, I suggest you get the guitar instead, but hey, well, who am I to
That
judge?
is a very good point.
Or you can do air guitar with the vacuum cleaner. Choices, you're sovereign.
There you go.
It's been absolutely brilliant. So Terri in Tokyo, be sure to follow Terri. Thank you for listening, everybody. You know, everybody has stories and I want to tell them. And I believe there are many, many ways to lead a life. And Terri's is so rich. It's been an absolute treat listening to you, this amazing human, hello humans, with the optimism and naivety of somebody who is also so clued into so many things, who's political and artistic, and you know, has talked so openly to us today about, well, just in the normal conversational way about depression and racism, and that's how it should be. These things should be on the table for discussion without tension or
without taboo. There's no reason to be taboo.
No, exactly. Without taboo, we should be able to talk about these things as part of our just ordinary everyday discourse. And absolutely. I really appreciate that you've you brought that to my table and to the table of the people who are listening. Terri, I absolutely adore you. You are
ditto.
You are my great mother, my elder, my respected and honored ancestor a million generations back. And
how lovely. I'm just a round the way kind of girl, honey, but I also am extraordinarily, I just admire what you're doing. I just think it's amazing, and I know where you came from and what you've brought it up into, and I think it's amazing. The sky is the limit for you.
Thank you so much, Terri, and I stand on the shoulder of giants. So you being one of those giants.
Thank you.
I'm gonna check out now. You're a Star Trek fan, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Live long and prosper, honey.
Beam us up, Scotty.